Hi everybody, I am Judith Uyterlinde, publisher of World Editions. Welcome to this online conversation with French author Frédéric Beigbeder and his translator Frank Wynne. We're going to talk about the latest novel by Frédéric Beigbeder that has just been released in English, translated by Frank Wynne. The novel is called A Life Without End, and this is what it looks like. Let me introduce both author and translator to you. Frédéric Beigbeder is a French journalist and author, and a best-selling author. His novel 99 Francs got him fired from his advertising job and established him as a controversial force within French literature. And several of his earlier works have also been translated into English. And he has been awarded various literary prizes, including the Prix Renaudot and the Independent Foreign Fiction Prize for his novel Windows on the World, which was also translated by Frank Wynne. Frank Wynne is a literary translator and writer himself, and has translated works by several French and Spanish authors, among whom Michel Houellebecq, Amadou Kourouma, Thomas Eloy Martinez, Almudena Grandes, and several novels by Frédéric Beigbeder. His work has earned him a number of awards, including the Scots Moncrieff Prize and the Premio Valle Inclán. And most recently, his translation of Vernon sur Butex by Virginie Despentes was shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize. So now we know who we have here, and welcome, Frédéric Beigbeder. Welcome, Frank Wynne.
Thank you.
Where are the both of you? Where are you now, Frédéric?
I'm in my bed in Guétari. It's a small village near the Atlantic Ocean in the southwest of France. And I am very glad because I've always dreamed of giving readings in my bed. It reminds me of John Lennon in his bed in Montreal, the famous bed-sitting. He was really lucky, and he was with Yoko Ono. So Frank is my Yoko. You agree, Frank?
Oh, absolutely, because every time I get involved with a translation of yours, somehow your life goes to hell, and then you write another one.
Exactly.
I was thinking, I'm in London, having rushed back from Vietnam, where I was spending the winter. But when I was thinking about this, I was thinking that if the great movement in French literature in the last 20 years has been autofiction, I think that, Frédéric, your version of autofiction could best be called Autofacts, because you move from one disaster to another in your life, and you create these extraordinarily warm, funny, rather bitter books in which you are your own hero.
Mm-hmm.
That's very, very nice. In fact, it's not only French. You know, someone like David Sedaris in America writes about his own life, and in a funny way too. And I think this has always existed. If you, for example, I don't take myself as the people I'm going to quote, but I think Montaigne is quite funny about his own life. And in history, you have many writers who did this. It's because I have no imagination, and I think when something bad happens to you, it's better to laugh. Right now, I just feel totally ridiculous because I'm publishing a book called A Life Without End, and half the world is staying at home because they are afraid of dying, and everybody is dying from a terrible disease. It's an incredible catastrophe, and so this book, and your translation is excellent, Frank, but this book is quite it's a weird moment to talk about immortality.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very strange moment, but actually I think it's quite a good moment, because part of what this book is your attempt, your promise to your eldest daughter, Romy, that her papa won't die, that nobody around her will die. And it is about the faith that we have put in science, in medicine, in the last 150 years to cure everything, and in your case, hopefully, to cure death. And the problem with nature is that you can have all of the plasma transfusions you want, you can have all the laser treatments you want, you can have, you know, all of the transplants that you want. There is a virus mutating out there that can still come and ravage the world in the space of 12 weeks. You know, we have gone from from 80 cases in Wuhan province in China to hundreds of countries being locked down. So I think actually it's a very good time to be looking at what it is. I mean, but partly because I think that what A Life Without End does is it very amusingly looks at the obsessiveness we have with preserving life without necessarily knowing why we are doing it.
Yes, yeah, and especially I was very curious to understand genetics, technobiology, all these new fields of science and medicine, promising age reversal. Everybody wants to stay young, and I wanted to do a book a little bit like Dorian Gray, of a guy who wants not only never to die, but also never to get old, to stay young forever. And so that is maybe the reason why everybody is staying at home. It's because we hate the idea of disappearing. We do not accept it. Previous generations accepted it more. I guess people were not as much afraid of dying as we are now.
Well, they were also, yes, they were also not shielded from it in the same way. I mean, not only did people die at a younger age, but the chances were that you saw people being ill, you saw people dying. Now we expect that science will take over, that hospitals will take over, that intensive care units and ventilators and whatever will take over. And so, you know, you have the extraordinary thing here in the UK a couple of weeks ago, where people who were being admitted with COVID were asked to sign what are called DNRs, do not resuscitate, which means if anything goes wrong, we're not going to do anything anymore. And yes, people are terrified by this, but in part we have become so divorced from the idea of death that that it seems somehow unnatural, whereas actually it is the most natural thing in the world. We have all become that quote by Woody Allen, I don't want to achieve immortality through my work, I want to achieve it by not dying.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, and there was I want to congratulate you, Frank, for especially when you translated the part where I have two columns, one with the positive aspect of dying, and one with the negative aspect of dying, because it's I tried to make it a lot of jokes and to make fun of death. I think it's well, it's important to do that, especially in those days. And what I see on the internet, especially all those videos, all those jokes, shows that people need to laugh about this tragedy.
Can I ask you to give a bit an impression of the book, to read a piece, Frank? Maybe. You can...
Okay, I will. I will read the funny piece that begins with his mother's heart attack. So this is what crystallizes for Frédéric the need to live forever. That year, my mother had a heart attack and my father had a fall in a hotel lobby. I began to become an habitué of hospitals in Paris. This is how I came to understand the working of vascular stents and discovered the existence of titanium knee replacements. I began to loathe old age, the antechamber of death. I had an overpaid job, a pretty 10-year-old daughter, a triplex apartment in the center of Paris, and a BMW hybrid, and I was in no hurry to lose all of these benefits. When I got back from the hospital, Romy came into the kitchen, one eyebrow raised. Papa, the way I understand it, everyone dies. First grandpa and grandma, and after that, maman, you, me, the animals, the trees, the flowers. Romy stared at me fixedly as though I were God, when in fact I was simply the father of a mononuclear family experiencing an accelerated acquaintanceship with cardiovascular surgery and orthopedic wards. I had to stop dissolving Lexamil tablets in my morning can of Coke if I was to propose a solution to her anxiety. I'm a little ashamed to admit it, but I never imagined that my mother and father would one day be octogenarians, and that afterwards it would be my turn, and then Romy's. I was hopeless at maths, and at old age. Beneath the flaxen hair of my living doll, two blue spheres began to fill with tears as she stood between the purring fridge and the microwave. I remember Remy's tantrum the day her mother told her that Santa Claus didn't exist. Remy hates lies. Then she said something kind. I don't want you to die, Papa. How delectable it is to shuck off one's armor. Now it was my turn to tear up, and I buried my nose in the sweet smell of her mandarin and lime shampoo. I still could not understand how a man as ugly as I am could produce such a beautiful little girl. Don't you worry, darling, I said. From now on, no one is going to die. We're a beautiful sight, as unhappy people so often are. Sadness makes faces more beautiful. Happy families are all alike, Tolstoy writes at the beginning of Anna Karenina, but goes on to say that misfortune is unique. I don't agree. Death is a banal misfortune. I cleared my throat the way my army-issue grandfather used to do when he sensed he needed to restore order in the house. Listen, darling, it's true that for millennia, people and animals and trees have died, but starting with us, that's all over. All I had to do now was make good on my promise.
Thank you, Frank Wynne. So, Frédéric, how does that sound? How does your book sound in English to you? Is it still your book, or does it feel like a different one?
It's a better one when it's Frank that translates it, because he's not only translating, he's improving, and so that's the reason why I always work with him. Mm-hmm. Also, it's interesting. It's interesting to listen to this now, because so we are in this period of time where, in fact, we understand that, well, immortality is a lie. I am lying to my daughter in this chapter, and maybe we should stop hoping for this eternal life that does not exist. So we should maybe stop being so afraid by something that is normal. I remember when I was very young, in 1968, there was a huge pandemic of flu all over the world. 1 million persons died, 50,000 in America, 35,000 in France, and no media talked about it. The government did nothing about it. It was totally accepted. I'm not saying it was better. It's just like this. 50 years ago, something analog happened, and it was, and nobody did anything about it. So, well, now we have changed. As humans, we have changed. We are so much frightened that we don't live anymore. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's one of the things I wanted to say. A life without end is impossible unless you stop living. You just have to stay in a prison forever. And but if you want to have a life, well, you have to take risks. Mm-hmm. That's what Montaigne said. Montaigne said, living is learning to die. Mm-hmm. Philosophing is learning to die. Mm-hmm. Thinking is learning to die. Why are we not able to learn to die today?
No, I think actually part of the recklessness of young people is they don't believe in death, and they don't believe that they're mortal. And that's a normal thing for young people. But I think actually you don't truly begin to live until you accept not only that the people you love are going to die, but that you are going to die. At that point, the stakes are very high. What you do is important. How you behave is important. If you're never going to die, what difference does it make? You can just, it's Groundhog Day. You keep throwing yourself off buildings. You keep, you know, it's nothing has any consequence if there is not death behind it. I mean, it's in in Dashiell Hammett's The Maltese Falcon, when Sam Spade has a gun pressed to him, and they said, "I can make you talk." He said, "No, I can make you kill me, and then you won't have the information." If death is the backstop, then how we live our lives will at least be more thoughtful and hopefully be better. If we ignore it, if we put ourselves in shiny rooms with, you know, all sorts of things to help us go on and on and on to, well, you were looking for 350 years, really? God, I can't think. You know, I mean,
yeah,
it's just so exhausting.
Yeah. Yes. The thing is, the reason why maybe I want to disagree a little bit on this point is that in the Middle Ages, people lived 25 years or 30 years, and now we live 3 times more. Like the average is 80 or maybe 85, and we still I mean, we still enjoy life. Life is 3 times longer and we still enjoy it. So that's maybe the reason why my narrator wants to be able to live 300 years, because he believes that maybe if you last 300 years, you will still enjoy life.
No, and you may well be right, but I think that's still only possible if after your 300 years
you die.
You die. You know, at the end of the day, if there is no end, then there is no life to live.
Thank you very much, Frédéric Beigbeder and Frank Wynne, for this pleasant conversation. And thank you, everybody who joined this conversation and who attended it. I'm really very eager to once again show you this book and tell you that you really should read it. It's passionate, humoristic, and it's philosophical. And go and order it at your local bookstore. And thank you so much for attending. Thank you, Frédéric. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, good.
Yep.